Captain Lee Daho stared at the stars through the bridge window of his ship. The Earth Defense Force cruiser Sol was not the biggest ship in space, but it was his. For 10 years, he had commanded this vessel through the Outer Rim territories. He had fought pirates, rescued cargo ships, and kept the peace in places where no one else wanted to go. But Daho knew something that made his jaw tight with anger. His ship could be so much more. Humans could build so much more. They were not allowed to. 50 years ago, Earth had joined the Galactic Council. It was a dream come true for humanity. They were no longer alone in the universe. The Altari Empire, with their golden ships and proud warriors, welcomed them. The Vex Collective, with their perfect machines and cold logic, accepted them. Dozens of other alien races opened their arms to the newest members of galactic civilization. But there was a price. The Galactic Accord was clear. Humans could build patrol ships like the Sol. They could build cargo vessels to carry goods between worlds. They could even build light cruisers for defense. But they could never build battleships. They could never build the massive warships that ruled space. Battles. The alien races said humans were too young, too wild, too dangerous for such power. Daho had read the treaty many times. Article 7, Section 4. The human species shall limit military vessel construction to Class C designation or below. No vessel exceeding 10,000 tons displacement or mounting weapons above Class B rating shall be constructed, operated, or maintained by human forces. It was an insult wrapped in diplomatic language. "Captain," called Lieutenant Kang So-young from her station. "We have an incoming message. Priority 7. Daho turned from the window. Priority 7 meant classified. Very classified. "Put it through to my ready room." In the small office behind the bridge, Daho activated his personal console. The face that appeared on the screen made him sit up straight. Admiral Park Yun-woo was a legend in the Earth Defense Force. He had commanded ships during the border skirmishes 20 years ago, when human colonies first expanded beyond the solar system. He was also one of the few people who spoke openly about the unfairness of the Galactic Accord. "Captain Lee," Admiral Park said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were intense. "I have new orders for you. You are to report to coordinates that I am sending now. Tell your crew it is a routine patrol mission." "Sir, what kind of mission is this really?" Admiral Park smiled. It was not a happy smile. "The kind that might change everything, Captain. The kind that might give humanity the respect we deserve." The coordinates appeared on Daho's screen. They pointed to the Tau Ceti system, far from any major trade routes. "When do I leave?" "Now, Captain. And Daho." Admiral Park leaned closer to the camera. "What you see out there stays between us. Understood?" "Yes, sir." The message ended. Daho stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then he returned to the bridge. "Lieutenant Kang, set course for the Tau Ceti system. Best speed." "Yes, sir. May I ask why we are going there?" "Routine patrol," Daho said. But his mind was racing. Admiral Park was not the kind of man who sent ships on routine patrols to empty space. 2 days later, the Sol dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Tau Ceti. The system looked normal on sensors. A yellow star with several planets, none of them inhabited. Asteroid fields floated in the outer system. Mining operations were common in places like this. "Captain," Lieutenant Kang called out, "I am reading some strange energy signatures from the asteroid field." "What kind of signatures?" "They look like construction activity. But the official records show only a small mining station here." Daeho felt his pulse quicken. "Take us closer. Passive sensors only." As the soul moved through the asteroid field, Daeho saw what was making the energy signatures. What looked like a simple mining platform from far away was actually something much bigger. Massive construction arms extended from the station. Ships moved in and out of hidden bays. This was not a mining operation. This was a shipyard. "Captain," Kang whispered. "Those ships. I have never seen designs like that." Daeho looked at the sensor readings. The ships were huge, much bigger than anything humans were supposed to build. They had the clean lines of human engineering, but they were massive, powerful. They looked like battleships, he said quietly. "Sir?" "Nothing, Lieutenant. Continue scanning." But Daeho's heart was pounding. Someone was building human battleships, in secret. Someone was breaking the Galactic Accord, and Admiral Park had sent him here to see it. A new message came through. This time it was text only. "Captain Lee, proceed to Docking Bay 7. Come alone." Daeho looked at his crew. They were good people, loyal, but this was bigger than anything they could imagine. "Lieutenant Kang, you have the bridge. I am going aboard the station for a meeting." "Sir, should I come with you?" "No. Keep the ship ready to leave quickly if needed." The shuttle ride to the station was short, but felt like hours. As Daeho got closer, he could see the true size of the operation. The asteroid had been completely hollowed out. Inside, it was like a city. Ships in various stages of construction filled massive bays. Thousands of workers moved between the projects. This had been going on for years. Admiral Park met him at the airlock. "Welcome to Project Defiance, Captain." "Sir, what is this place?" "This is what happens when humans get tired of being treated like children," Admiral Park said. "Walk with me." They moved through corridors filled with activity. Engineers carried plans for weapon systems. Workers welded hull plates that were twice as thick as anything on the Sol. Everything was human design, but scaled up to match the great warships of the alien races. "How long has this been going on?" Daeho asked. 20 years, since the day I realized that the Galactic Accord was not about keeping peace. It was about keeping humans weak. They stopped at a viewing window. Below them, a massive ship was taking shape. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Sleek, like a human cruiser, but enormous like an Altari dreadnought. "The Indomitable," Admiral Park said. "Our first battleship. She will be ready for trials in 6 months." "But the treaty..." "The treaty assumes that other races will always be stronger than us, that we will always need their protection, that we will always be junior partners in this galaxy." Admiral Park turned to face Daeho. "What if they are wrong?" Daeho stared at the ship below. It represented everything humans were told they could not have. Everything they were told they did not deserve. "What do you need me to do?" "Your ship patrols the outer rim. You see things that others miss. Pirates, smugglers, strange ships that should not be there. I need eyes and ears out there, Captain. I need someone I can trust." "You have them, sir." Admiral Park smiled. This time it was genuine. "Good. Because something is coming, Captain. Something that will test everything we have built here. And when that day comes, the galaxy will learn what humans can really do." As Daeho returned to his ship, his mind was full of questions. But one thing was clear. The days of humans being the weak junior partners in the galaxy were numbered. Whether the alien races liked it or not, Humanity was about to take its place among the great powers of space. The Soul left the Tau Ceti system quietly. On paper, it had been a routine patrol, but Captain Lee Daeho knew that everything had changed. The real question was whether the galaxy was ready for what came next. 3 weeks after his first visit to the hidden shipyard, Captain Lee Daeho received another message from Admiral Park. This time, the orders were different. He was to bring the Soul back to Tau Ceti, but not alone. A civilian ship would meet them at the edge of the system. The civilian vessel turned out to be a transport carrying a single passenger. Kim Suji stepped aboard the Soul with a small bag and a tablet computer. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with the quick eyes of someone who saw the world in numbers and equations. "Ms. Kim," Daeho said as he greeted her in the shuttle bay. "Admiral Park said you were important to the project, but he did not say why." "I design engines," Suji said simply. "The best engines that humans have ever built. At least, I thought they were until last week." "What happened last week?" Suji smiled. "Someone started ordering parts for engines that do not exist. Engines that would be powerful enough to move ships the size of mountains. I got curious." The journey to the hidden shipyard was different this time. Admiral Park had given Daeho clearance codes that let the Soul dock directly with the station. As they walked through the corridors, Suji's eyes went wide. "This is incredible," she whispered. "How many people work here?" 15,000, said Commander Yoon Ji-won, who had met them at the airlock. She was a small woman with scars on her hands and the confident walk of someone who had seen combat. "All volunteers, all sworn to secrecy." They passed through sections of the station that Daeho had not seen before. Weapons labs where scientists worked on new types of guns and missiles. Training centers where crews learned to operate systems that officially did not exist. Medical bays equipped to handle battle damage. This is not just a shipyard, Daeho realized. This is a military base. It had to be, Admiral Park said, joining them as they walked. Building the ships is only part of the challenge. We need people who know how to use them. We need weapons that can compete with alien technology. We need everything that the Galactic Accord says we cannot have. They stopped at another viewing window. The Indomitable was more complete now. Her hull was finished, painted in the dark blue of Earth Defense Force ships. Weapon mounts dotted her surface like metal thorns. She looked dangerous. "She is beautiful," Suji said. "But her engines—" "What about them?" Admiral Park asked. "They are all wrong. I mean, they work, but they are not efficient. You are using old designs, scaled up. It is like putting a engine in a race car." Dr. Choi Minho laughed. He was the chief scientist for the project, a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. "We told you she would notice." "Notice what?" Suji asked. "That we need you," Admiral Park said. "We can build the ships, but we need them to be better than anything the aliens have. Faster, stronger, more reliable. That requires new thinking." They took Suji to a private lab filled with computer systems and design equipment. On the main screen was a detailed plan of a ship engine. But this engine was unlike anything Suji had ever seen. "We call it the Fusion Cascade Drive," Dr. Choi explained. "It uses a series of fusion reactions in sequence, each one feeding the next. In theory, it should be 3 times more powerful than anything currently in use." "In theory," Suji said, studying the plans. "But these calculations are wrong. The plasma flow will create instabilities. The whole thing will tear itself apart. That is why we need you, Admiral Park said. Can you fix it? Suji was quiet for a long time, her fingers moving across the tablet as she worked through the numbers. Finally, she looked up. I can do better than fix it. I can make it perfect. Over the next several hours, Admiral Park showed them the full scope of Project Defiance. In addition to the Indomitable, 3 more battleships were under construction. The Sejong was designed for long-range combat, with massive guns that could hit targets from incredible distances. The Yisun Shin was built for speed and mobility, able to strike fast and disappear. The Guangaito was a fortress, heavily armored and designed to take punishment while protecting other ships. Each one is different, Admiral Park explained. We do not know what kind of enemies we might face. So we built ships that can handle anything. What enemies? Daiho asked. The galaxy has been at peace for decades. Commander Yoon Ji-won smiled grimly. The galaxy has been at peace because the strong races keep the weak ones in line. But what happens when someone stronger than the Altari comes along? Someone who does not care about treaties or councils. You think something like that is coming? No, it is, Admiral Park said. Our scouts have been picking up strange signals from the outer galaxy. Ships that do not match any known designs. Energy signatures that suggest weapons we have never seen. Something is out there, and it is moving this way. They spent the night aboard the station. Suji worked late into the evening, redesigning the engine systems for all 4 battleships. Her new calculations promised engines that were not just more powerful, but more reliable and easier to maintain. How did you do this? Dr. Choi asked, looking at her work. I stopped thinking like an engineer, Suji said. I started thinking like a human. Aliens build perfect engines that work exactly as designed, but humans build engines that can be fixed with spare parts and kept running when everything goes wrong. The next morning, Admiral Park took Daiho and Suji to see the weapons testing range. Deep in the asteroid, tunnels had been carved out for testing new guns and missiles. What they saw there made both of them stare in amazement. The humans were not just copying alien weapons. They were building something completely different. Where alien ships used energy beams and plasma cannons, the human weapons fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic weapons could punch through any armor by sheer force. Energy weapons show up on every sensor in space, explained Dr. Choi. But a chunk of metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed? Most aliens will not see it coming until it hits them. It is brilliant, Suji said. Crude, but brilliant. That is the human way, Admiral Park said. When we cannot be more advanced than our enemies, we find ways to be more clever. They tested one of the kinetic cannons on a target made from Altari armor plating. The projectile went through the alien metal like it was paper. How many people know about this project? Daiho asked. Outside this facility? Maybe 50 people in Earth government? A few key officials who help with supplies and cover stories. Everyone else thinks we are running mining operations and research stations. What happens when the ships are ready? Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. That depends on whether we get to choose when to reveal them or whether events force our hand. As the Soul prepared to leave the station, Suji made her decision. She would stay and work on the engine designs. Her official job at Terra Dynamics Corporation would continue, but her real work would be here. Are you sure about this? Daiho asked her. These ships represent everything humans can become, she said. Not the junior partners that the aliens want us to be, but equals. Maybe even more than equals. How can I walk away from that? As the Soul left Tau Ceti for the second time, Daeho felt the weight of the secret he now carried. Somewhere behind them, thousands of humans were working to build a fleet that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The only question was whether they would finish in time for whatever was coming from the dark between the stars. The project had a name. Now, Defiance. It was a good name, Daeho thought, because that was exactly what they were doing. Defying the treaty that kept humans weak. Defying the alien races that thought they knew best. Defying anyone who said that humans should be grateful for whatever scraps they were given. Soon the galaxy would learn what human defiance really meant. The first reports came from the edge of Altari space. Trading ships simply vanished without sending distress signals. Patrol vessels went to investigate and never returned. For weeks, the Altari High Command insisted it was just pirates or equipment failures. They had ruled their sector of the galaxy for 1,000 years. Nothing could threaten them in their own territory. They were wrong. Captain Han Woo-jin was commanding the Earth Defense Force cruiser Busan on a routine cargo escort mission. When the emergency broadcast reached them, the message was in the formal language of the Galactic Council, but Woo-jin could hear the panic underneath the diplomatic words. Unknown. Hostile forces have attacked the Altari colony of Kethvar. All ships in the sector are requested to provide immediate assistance. Lieutenant Commander Park Ji-soo, his second in command, looked up from her station. Captain, Kethvar is 3 days away at best speed. If the Altari are asking for help, then something very bad is happening. Woo-jin finished. Set course for Kethvar. Signal the convoy that they are on their own. Sir, should we contact Earth Command? Woo-jin thought about it. The Busan was just a light cruiser with a crew of 80 people. If something could frighten the Altari, his ship would not make much difference. But someone needed to find out what was happening. Send a message to Admiral Chen. Tell him we are responding to the Altari request. If we do not report back in 1 week, he should assume the worst. The journey to Kethvar took 2.5 days at emergency speed. As they got closer, Woo-jin's sensor operator began picking up strange readings. Captain, I am detecting debris fields ahead. Lots of them. Altari ships? Yes, sir, but also something else. The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases. When they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kethvar system, Woo-jin saw a sight that would stay with him for the rest of his life. The planet was still there, but it was dark. No lights, no communications, no signs of life. Floating around it were the remains of dozens of ships, but it was not just the destruction that made Woo-jin's blood run cold. It was what had caused it. Captain, his tactical officer whispered. Are you seeing this? On the main screen, enhanced by the ship's sensors, were the attackers. They looked like no ships Woo-jin had ever seen. They were organic, like living creatures that swam through space. Their hulls pulsed with veins of red light. As he watched, one of them moved to a piece of Altari wreckage and seemed to absorb it, growing larger. They are feeding, Ji-soo said quietly. The ships are feeding on the debris. Before Woo-jin could respond, alarms started sounding throughout the ship. 3 of the alien vessels had detected the Busan and were moving toward them. All hands to battle stations, Woo-jin ordered. Prepare for combat. The alien ships moved. Unlike anything in Woo-jin's experience, they did not fly in straight lines or follow predictable courses. They flowed through space like sharks through water, covering impossible distances in seconds. The first one opened fire with a weapon that looked like red lightning. The energy beam struck the Busan's shields, and something terrible happened. The shields did not just fail. They seemed to turn against the ship, feeding power back into the hull. "Shield generators are overloading," the engineering officer reported. "Whatever that weapon does, our defenses are making it stronger." "Shut down the shields," Wu Jin ordered. "Use evasive maneuvers." Without shields, the Busan was vulnerable, but at least the alien weapon could not use their own power against them. Wu Jin ordered his crew to fire back with their kinetic cannons. The solid projectiles struck the alien ship, and something amazing happened. Instead of bouncing off or being absorbed like energy weapons would be, the kinetic rounds punched through the creature's hide. Dark fluid leaked from the wounds. "It is bleeding," Jisoo said in amazement. "The ship is actually bleeding." "Keep firing," Wu Jin ordered. "Target the largest one." The battle was brief, but vicious. The alien ships were fast and their weapons were terrifying, but they were not prepared for human tactics. Where the Altari would have used careful formations and energy weapons, the humans fought like street fighters. They used every dirty trick they could think of. Wu Jin rammed one alien ship with the Busan's reinforced bow. Another was destroyed when the human crew vented their reactor coolant at it, freezing the creature in space. The third fled when it realized it was outmatched. After the battle, Wu Jin ordered his crew to investigate the planet. What they found was even worse than the space battle. Kethvar had been home to 50 million Altari. Now it was empty. Not destroyed, emptied. Every living thing had been taken. "Captain," the science officer reported, "I am reading massive biosignatures in the planet's crust. It is like the entire population was dragged underground." "Alive?" I think so, sir. But the readings are wrong. The life signs are changing, becoming something else." Wu Jin did not wait to find out what. He ordered the Busan to leave Kethvar immediately and head for the nearest Galactic Council station. On Earth, in the secret conference room beneath Earth Defense Force headquarters, Admiral Park Hyun-woo listened to Wu Jin's report with growing concern. Around the table sat the few people who knew about Project Defiance. "The Altari call them the Krillian Horde," reported Counselor Nam Arium, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. "They appeared from the void beyond the galaxy 6 months ago. At first, the Council thought they were just another pirate fleet. But they are not pirates. They are something else entirely." "What do they want?" asked Admiral Park. "Everything," Nam Arium replied. "They do not conquer planets. They consume them. Every world they attack becomes a feeding ground. The population is taken alive and changed, turned into more of them." Dr. Choi Minho leaned forward. "Captain Han's report is very interesting. His kinetic weapons worked against them when energy weapons failed. That suggests these creatures have adapted to fight against standard Galactic Council technology. But not against human technology," Admiral Park said thoughtfully. "The Indomitable will be ready for trials in 3 weeks, reported Commander Yoon Ji-won. "The other ships are 6 to 8 weeks behind her." Admiral Park stood and walked to the large star map on the wall. Red markers showed known Krillian attacks. They formed a line moving steadily toward the core worlds of the galaxy. "How is the Council responding?" he asked. Nam Arium sighed. "Poorly. The Altari want to fight them head-on with massive fleets. The Vex Collective thinks they can negotiate. The smaller races are demanding protection while offering nothing in return. It is chaos." "And humans?" "We have been asked to provide support ships, light cruisers, and cargo vessels. The Council does not expect us to fight these things directly." Admiral, Park turned back to the group. They are right, of course. Our light cruisers cannot stand against an enemy that destroys Altari battleships. But they do not know what we have been building. Sir, Commander Yoon said carefully, if we reveal the project now, the Council will be furious. They might expel Earth entirely. And if we do not reveal it, the Krillians will destroy the galaxy piece by piece. Admiral Park returned to his seat. Dr. Choi, how confident are you that our weapons will work against these creatures? Based on Captain Han's report? Very confident. The Krillians seem to be living ships. They have evolved to absorb energy and use it against their enemies. But kinetic weapons are just matter moving very fast. They cannot adapt to being hit by a chunk of metal. Then we accelerate the schedule, Admiral Park decided. I want the Indomitable ready for combat in 2 weeks, not 3. And I want volunteers for a very dangerous mission. As the meeting broke up, Admiral Park remained behind. With Nam Ariam. How long do we have? He asked her. The Krillians are moving toward the Centauri system. If their pattern holds, they will reach the outer colonies in 3 months, Earth in 6. Then we had better be ready. Nam Ariam nodded. Park, when this comes out, and it will come out, Earth will face consequences. The other races will not. Forgive us for breaking the treaty. Admiral Park smiled grimly. Let them be angry. When the Krillians are defeated by human battleships, they will have to admit that maybe the treaty was wrong. Maybe humans deserve to stand as equals in this galaxy. Outside, in the hidden shipyard at Tau Ceti, thousands of workers labored around, the clock to finish the ships that might save civilization. The Indomitable was so close to completion that her engines had already been tested. Soon, she would take her place among the greatest warships ever built. The only question was whether she would be ready in time. The Indomitable was ready ahead of schedule. Captain Lee Daeho stood on her bridge and marveled at what human hands had built. The ship was 3 times the size of his old cruiser, with armor thick enough to stop anything the galaxy could throw at her. Her weapons were unlike anything in space. Kinetic cannons that could punch through a planet, missile systems that could overwhelm any defense. But the most amazing thing about the Indomitable was her crew. Every person aboard had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never return home. They were engineers, fighters, scientists, and dreamers who believed that humanity deserved better than the scraps the alien races offered. Captain, Lieutenant Kang So-young called from her new position at Tactical. She had requested transfer from the Seoul when she learned about the project. We are receiving orders from Admiral Park. Daeho read the message on his personal screen. Their first mission was simple in words, terrifying in reality. A refugee convoy was under attack 3 systems away. The Krillians had broken through the Altari defense lines and were heading for the core worlds. Hundreds of ships filled with civilians were fleeing ahead of them. Set course for the Rigel system, Daeho ordered. Best speed. Chief Petty Officer Lim Dongwook spoke up from the engineering station. Captain, should I inform the crew what we are flying into? Daeho thought about it. The crew knew they were aboard a secret battleship, but this would be their first real combat against an enemy that had destroyed every fleet sent against it. Tell them the truth, Daeho said. We are about to face the most dangerous enemy in the galaxy. But we are not going there to die. We are going there to win. The journey to Rigel took 18 hours at maximum speed. As they approached, the sensors began picking up the refugee convoy. More than 200 ships of every size and type, fleeing in panic from something behind them. Captain, Kang reported, I am detecting Krillian ships in pursuit. At least 12 of them. On the main screen, the alien vessels looked even more terrible than in the reports. They moved through space like hungry predators, their living hulls pulsing with dark energy. Some were small and fast, others were massive and covered with weapon pods that looked like tumors. "The lead refugee ship is broadcasting," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." The face that appeared on screen was an Altari commander, his golden skin pale with fear. "Unknown human vessel, you must leave this area immediately. The Krillians cannot be stopped. Save yourselves. This is Captain Deho of the Earth Defense Force ship Indomitable. We are here to help." The Altari's eyes went wide. "Human ship. But your vessel. It is enormous. How is this possible?" "Explanations later," Deho said. "Right now, we have work to do." The Krillian ships had detected the Indomitable and were changing course to intercept. They moved with frightening speed, covering the distance in minutes. "All hands to battle stations," Deho announced. "This is what we trained for." The first Krillian ship opened fire with the red energy weapons that had destroyed so many others. The beams struck the Indomitable's armor and did something the aliens had never seen before. Instead of penetrating or reflecting, the energy was absorbed by special coatings designed by human engineers. "Armor holding," Lim reported. "Energy levels are actually dropping. The coatings are working." "Return fire," Deho ordered. The Indomitable's main guns spoke for the first time in anger. Kinetic projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed struck the lead Krillian ship. The creature's living hull ruptured and dark fluid sprayed into space. "Direct hit," Kang announced. "The target is badly damaged, but the Krillians were not done." The wounded ship began to change, its damaged sections regenerating at an incredible rate. Within minutes, it looked as good as new. "They can heal themselves," Deho said grimly. "We need to hit them harder." "Captain," Lim called, out. "Permission to try something?" "What do you have in mind?" "The engine modifications Ms. Kim designed. If I redirect power from life support to the main guns, we can increase projectile velocity by 30%. It was risky. If the power surge damaged the weapons, they would be defenseless. But watching the Krillian ship regenerate, Deho knew. They needed every advantage. Do it. The next salvo from the Indomitable was devastating. The kinetic rounds moved so fast they were barely visible, striking the Krillian ship before it could react. This time, the damage was too severe for regeneration. The creature ship broke apart and died. The other Krillians responded with fury. They swarmed toward the human battleship, their weapons blazing. But they had never faced anything like the Indomitable. Where other races built elegant ships that relied on shields and maneuverability, humans had built a fortress that could take punishment and keep fighting. The Krillian energy weapons hammered the armor without effect. Their bioacid projectiles sizzled harmlessly against the hull. "They are trying to board us," Kang reported as several smaller Krillian ships attached themselves to the hull. "Let them," Deho said grimly. The Krillians cut through the outer hull and poured into the ship's corridors. They were horrific creatures, part organic and part machine, with claws that could cut through steel and weapons that fired living ammunition. They were not prepared for human defenders. The crew of the Indomitable had trained for boarding actions. They fought from prepared positions with weapons designed to stop exactly this kind of enemy. Kinetic rifles that fired rounds too fast for the creatures to dodge. Explosive charges that could not be absorbed or regenerated. And when the weapons ran out, they fought with knives and tools and bare hands. The battle inside the ship was vicious, but brief. The Krillians were used to enemies that fled when wounded. They had never fought humans who got angrier the more they were hurt. Outside, the space battle continued. The Indomitable moved through the Krillian formation like a shark through a school of fish. Her weapons found targets with every shot. Her armor turned aside attacks that would have destroyed any other ship. One by one, the Krillian vessels fell. Some tried to flee, but the human battleship was faster than they expected. Others tried to ram her, but the Indomitable's hull was built to survive collisions with asteroids. When the last Krillian ship was destroyed, an eerie silence fell over the refugee convoy. For the first time in months, they were safe. "Captain," the communications officer said, "we are receiving messages from every ship in the convoy. They want to know who we are." "Tell them we are the Earth Defense Force," Deho said, "and that humanity stands with all free peoples against the darkness." The Altari commander who had warned them to flee appeared on screen again. His expression was one of complete amazement. "Captain Deho, what you have done here is impossible. No single ship has ever defeated a Krillian hunting pack. How did you do it?" "We built a better ship," Deho said simply, "and we crewed it with people who refuse to give up. But the Galactic Accord forbids humans from building battleships." Deho smiled. The Galactic Accord assumed that humans would always follow rules that others made for them. Today, the galaxy learns that sometimes humans make their own rules. News of the battle spread quickly through the refugee convoy and beyond. Within hours, every major power in the galaxy knew that a mysterious human battleship had defeated the Krillians. The reaction was immediate and explosive. The Altari High Command demanded an explanation. The Vex Collective issued protests about treaty violations. Smaller races called for emergency council sessions. But mixed with the outrage was something else: hope. For the first time since the Krillians appeared, someone had not just survived an encounter with them, but won decisively. On Earth, Admiral Park received reports from intelligence agents throughout the galaxy. The secret was out. Project Defiance could no longer be hidden. "Sir," Commander Yoon said as they reviewed the reports, "several alien fleets are moving toward Tau Ceti. They know something is there." "Let them come," Admiral Park said. "The Sejong will be ready for trials in 1 week. The other ships shortly after. If the galaxy wants to see what humanity has built, then it is time to show them." He activated his personal communicator and sent a message to Captain Deho aboard the Indomitable. "Well done, Captain. Come home. It is time for the galaxy to meet the rest of the fleet." As the Indomitable escorted the refugee convoy to safety, her crew knew that everything had changed. They were no longer a secret weapon hidden in the dark. They were the first of a new kind of warship, crewed by a people who had decided they would no longer accept limits placed on them by others. The real test was yet to come. But for now, humanity had shown the galaxy that the age of human weakness was over. Whether the other races liked it or not, Earth was now a major power in space, and this was only the beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from 47 species filled the great chamber on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. The air was thick with tension and the electronic hum of translation devices. At the center of it all sat Counselor Nam Ariam, representing Earth. She looked calm, but inside her heart was racing. Today would determine whether humanity took its place as an equal in the galaxy, or whether Earth would be cast out entirely. The first to speak was High Commander Vextal of the Altari Empire. His golden skin was flushed with anger as he rose to address the assembly. "Fellow representatives," he began, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 years of military tradition. We are here to address the most serious treaty violation in the history of our alliance. The human species has secretly constructed military vessels in direct violation of the Galactic Accord. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many of the alien representatives had seen the reports from the Rigel system. A human ship had destroyed an entire Krillian hunting pack single-handedly. That kind of power was not supposed to exist in human hands. The evidence is clear, continued Vextel. The vessel that appeared at Rigel exceeds every limitation placed on human military construction. It is 3 times larger than anything they are permitted to build. Its weapons are of unknown design and devastating effectiveness. Counselor Zephyrin of the Vex Collective activated his speaking platform. Unlike the emotional Altari, the Vex spoke in cold, logical tones. The treaty violation is only part of the problem, he said. Our analysis indicates that this indomitable represents technology that has been in development for decades. This was not a rushed project born of the current crisis. This was a long-term plan to circumvent our agreements. Nam Ariam felt the weight of dozens of eyes upon her. Some were angry, others curious. A few seemed almost pleased. The smaller races, those who had been protected by the treaty system, looked frightened. Ambassador Toketh of the Hegemony spoke next. The question before us is simple. Do we allow this violation to stand, or do we take action to preserve the order that has kept peace in our galaxy for generations? What action? Asked Counselor Neela of the Free Worlds. The humans have proven that their weapons work against the Krillians. Can we afford to punish them for giving us hope? The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species demanded immediate sanctions against Earth. Others pointed out that the human ship had saved hundreds of thousands of refugees. The noise grew so loud that the speaker had to activate the silence field. "Order!" the speaker commanded. His voice echoed in the sudden quiet. "Counselor Nam Ariam, you will now respond to these charges." Nam Ariam stood slowly. She had prepared for this moment for weeks, but now that it was here, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. What she said next would determine the future of her species. "Fellow representatives," she began, "I will not insult your intelligence by denying what you already know. Yes, humanity has built battleships. Yes, we did so in violation of the letter of the Galactic Accord. But before you judge us, ask yourselves why we felt such actions were necessary." She activated her data pad, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber showing attack patterns, casualty reports, and fleet movements. For 6 months, the Krillians have been destroying everything in their path. Altari battle groups, Vex calculation fleets, the combined might of a dozen species, all have fallen before these creatures. How many worlds have been consumed? How many billion souls have been taken? The displays showed the grim statistics. 47 worlds lost, 200 million people missing, presumed consumed, thousands of ships destroyed. And what has been the response of this council? Nam Ariam continued. Committees, study groups, requests for more data. While you debated, entire civilizations disappeared. High Commander Vextal stood angrily. The Altari have lost more than any other race fighting these monsters. Do not lecture us about sacrifice. I am not questioning your courage, Nam Ariam replied. I am questioning your methods. You fight the Krillians with the same tactics you have used for 1,000 years. The same weapons, the same strategies, the same assumptions. And you lose, again and again. She gestured to new holographic displays showing the battle at Rigel. One human ship, using weapons that no one in this chamber has seen before, destroyed 12 Krillian vessels without taking serious damage. This is not luck. This is the result of thinking differently. Counselor Zephrin's mechanical voice cut through the silence. You speak of thinking differently, but what you have done is break the fundamental law that keeps our alliance stable. If humans can build battleships in secret, what stops any species from doing the same? Nothing, Nam Ariam said simply. And maybe that is exactly what we need. The chamber fell silent. This was not the response anyone had expected. For 200 years, Nam Ariam continued, the Galactic Accord has divided our species into the strong and the weak. The Altari and the Vex make the decisions. Everyone else follows orders or asks for protection. This system worked when our only enemies were pirates and small conflicts. But the Krillians are something else entirely. She paused, looking around the chamber at faces both alien and familiar. They are an enemy that adapts, that learns from every battle. They have studied our tactics for months, absorbed our technologies, turned our own strengths against us. To defeat them, we need new ideas, new weapons, new ways of thinking, and... You believe humans possess these new ways? Asked Ambassador Toketh skeptically. I believe that diversity makes us stronger, Nam Ariam replied. Humans approach warfare differently than Altari. We build differently than the Vex. We think differently than anyone else in this chamber. That difference is not weakness. It is our greatest strength. High Commander Vexatal stepped forward. You ask us to ignore treaty violations because human differences make you special. But every species believes it is special. Every race has something unique to offer. If we abandon the treaties that bind us, we abandon the peace that protects us all. Nam Ariam nodded. You are right. Every species is special. Every race has unique strengths. So why does our current system only use the strengths of a few? Why are humans the only ones forbidden to build the ships they are capable of? Why are the smaller races expected to contribute soldiers but not allowed to develop their own defenses? She activated another display, this one showing fleet compositions throughout the galaxy. Look at our military structure. Altari provide heavy warships. The Vex provide support and logistics. A few other races contribute specialized vessels. Everyone else provides manpower and resources. How is this different from the old empire? Systems you claim to have moved beyond? Counselor Neela leaned forward. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that the Galactic Accord needs to change, not just for humans, but for everyone. We should be building a military that uses the best ideas from every species, not just the oldest and strongest. The chamber erupted again, but this time the arguments were different. Representatives of smaller species began voicing thoughts they had kept hidden for decades. The current system did favor the ancient powers. Their contributions were often ignored or dismissed. Through it all, Nam Ariam waited patiently. Finally, the speaker restored order once again. You speak of changing the fundamental structure of our alliance, the speaker said. But you still have not addressed the immediate issue. What do you propose we do about the human battleships that already exist? Nam Ariam smiled. It was time for the moment she had been building toward. I propose we use them, she said. The Krillians are less than 3 months from reaching the core worlds. Traditional tactics have failed. Traditional weapons have failed. Traditional thinking has failed. But human weapons work against them. Human tactics confuse them. Human stubbornness frustrates them. She gestured to the displays, showing the Rigel battle once more. This ship, the Indomitable, is not just a treaty violation. It is proof that there are other ways to fight this war. Give us a chance to prove that human methods can succeed where others have failed. "And if you fail?" asked High Commander Vextal. "Then you will be no worse off than you are now," Nam Ariam replied. "But if we succeed, you will have learned something valuable about the power of thinking differently." For long minutes, the chamber was silent as representatives considered her words. Finally, Counselor Zephyrin spoke. "You ask us to trust a species that has already broken our most fundamental agreement. Why should we believe you will honor any new arrangements?" Nam Ariam had been waiting for this question. "Because we are not asking you to trust us. We are asking you to trust results. Judge us by what we accomplish, not by what we promise." She paused, then played her final card. "The human fleet will deploy against the Krillians with or without council approval. We will not stand by and watch the galaxy burn while arguing about treaties, but we would prefer to fight alongside our allies rather than alone." The implications were clear. Humanity would no longer be bound by restrictions that prevented them from defending themselves and others. The Council could work with them or be left behind. High Commander Vextal stood once more. "The Altari Empire will not be threatened by treaty violators." "This is not a threat," Nam Ariam replied. The Centauri system was the jewel of human space. 3 inhabited worlds, 2 major space stations, and the busiest trade routes in human territory. It was also directly in the path of the Krillian advance. Admiral Park Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched as the human fleet took its positions. 4 battleships, the most powerful warships humanity had ever built, spread out in formation around Centauri Prime. Each one represented a different approach to the same problem: how to build a ship that could win against impossible odds. The Indomitable had proven herself at Rigel, but that had been against a small hunting pack. Now they faced something much worse. Long-range sensors showed more than 60 Krillian vessels approaching, including several of the massive bioships that the aliens used as mobile hive centers. "Admiral," Captain Lee Daeho called from his command station, "the Sejong is reporting, ready for combat." On the tactical display, the second human battleship moved into position. The Sejong was built for long-range combat, bristling with the most powerful kinetic cannons ever mounted on a human ship. Her captain, Bei Minji, had trained for years to fight battles at distances measured in light minutes. "The Yisun Shin is in position," reported another voice. Captain Oh Seung-min commanded the fastest battleship in the fleet, designed to strike hard and disappear before the enemy could respond. Unlike the fortress-like Indomitable, the Yi-Sun Shin was sleek and deadly, built for hit-and-run tactics. "Gwanggaito standing by," came the final report. The 4th battleship was a mobile fortress, even more heavily armored than the Indomitable. She carried defensive systems that could protect other ships and weapons designed to break through any enemy formation. Around the human battleships, the Allied fleet waited nervously. Altari heavy cruisers, their golden hulls gleaming in the light of Centauri's star. Vex destroyer squadrons, their precise formations a testament to computer-controlled discipline. Ships from a dozen other races, all united in the knowledge that, if the Krillians broke through here, the heart of galactic civilization would be next. "Admiral," the communications officer announced, "incoming message from High Commander Vextal aboard the Golden Spear." The Altari commander's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was carefully neutral, but Park could see the doubt in his eyes. "Admiral Park, our long-range sensors show the Krillian fleet will arrive in approximately 6 hours. My tactical staff recommends we withdraw to a more defensible position." "With respect, High Commander, there is no more defensible position," Park replied. "If we lose Centauri, we lose everything. This is where we make our stand. Your ships are untested against a force this large. The Krillians have learned from their defeat at Rigel. They will be prepared for your weapons." Park smiled grimly. "Then they will be surprised to learn that we have been preparing for them as well." As the hours passed, the tension on every ship grew. Crews ran final checks on weapon systems. Marines prepared for boarding actions. Engineers made last-minute adjustments to armor and shields. On the Guangaeto, Colonel Shin Hyejin addressed her Marine battalion. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were volunteers who had trained specifically to fight the Krillians in close combat. "Listen up," she told them. "These things are not like any enemy we have faced before. They are part machine, part organic, and all nightmare. But they bleed, which means they can die. Our job is to make sure they do plenty of both." The Marines checked their weapons one final time. Kinetic rifles that could punch through Krillian carapaces, explosive charges designed to disrupt their regeneration abilities, and for when all else failed, monomolecular blades that could cut through anything. On the bridge of the Yisun Shin, Captain Oh Sung-min reviewed his attack plans. His ship was the smallest of the 4 battleships, but also the most maneuverable. His job was to hit the Krillian fleet from unexpected angles, while the larger ships engaged them head-on. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "I am detecting gravitational distortions at the edge of the system. The Krillians are about to arrive." Throughout the fleet, alarms began sounding. This was it. The moment that would determine the future of galactic civilization. The Krillian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel like a swarm of nightmares made real. The creatures' bioships pulsed with dark energy, their organic hulls writhing as they sensed the prey waiting for them. At their center, a massive hive ship, the size of a small moon, dominated the formation. "My God," whispered someone on the bridge of the Indomitable. "Look at the size of that thing." Admiral Park studied the enemy formation on his tactical display. The Krillians had learned from their previous encounters. Instead of charging forward blindly, they were advancing in a coordinated pattern, using their smaller ships to screen the larger ones. "Admiral!" Captain Bei Minji's voice came over the communications channel. "The Sejong has a clear shot at their lead elements. Request permission to open fire." "Granted. All ships execute Plan Delta." The Sejong fired first, her massive kinetics, cannons hurling projectiles across millions of kilometers of space. The rounds struck the lead Krillian ships with devastating effect, punching through their organic armor and spilling dark fluid into the void. But the aliens had indeed learned from Rigel. Instead of trying to regenerate the damage, the wounded, ships simply broke apart, releasing clouds of smaller creatures that immediately began forming new vessels from the debris. "They are adapting," Captain Deho observed. "The wounded ships are becoming breeding grounds for new attackers." "Then we hit them harder," Admiral Park replied. "All ships, full attack. Do not give them time to adapt." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. The human battleships fought with a ferocity that amazed their alien allies. Where other races used careful tactics and measured responses, the humans seemed to embrace chaos. The Indomitable charged directly into the enemy formation, her kinetic weapons blazing. Her thick armor absorbed hit after hit from Krillian energy weapons, while she delivered devastating punishment at close range. The Guangaeto became a mobile fortress, using her defensive systems to protect the more vulnerable Allied ships, while her own weapons carved through enemy formations. When Krillian boarding craft attempted to attach to Allied vessels, her Marines launched counterattacks that turned the alien ships into charnel houses. The Yi Sun Shin lived up to her namesake, appearing without warning to devastate enemy formations before disappearing again. Her hit-and-run attacks confused the Krillians, who were used to enemies that stayed to fight once engaged. But it was the Sejong that provided the most shocking moment of the battle. As the massive Krillian hive ship moved toward Centauri Prime, Captain Bei Minji made a decision that would be remembered for generations. "All power to the main guns," she ordered. "Target the hive ship's core. Captain, that will drain our entire energy grid. We will be defenseless for at least 10 minutes. "Do it." The Sejong unleashed a barrage that lit up space like a new star. Every kinetic cannon on the ship fired simultaneously, sending a stream of projectiles toward the massive alien vessel. The rounds struck with such force that the hive ship actually changed course from the impact. For a moment, it seemed like the attack had failed. The hive ship was wounded but not destroyed. Then, deep inside its core, something catastrophic happened. The creature's biosystems began to collapse, triggering a chain reaction that spread throughout its massive form. The hive ship died slowly, its death throes visible across the entire system. As it collapsed, the smaller Krillian vessels seemed to lose coordination. Whatever intelligence had been directing them was gone. "Now," Admiral Park commanded. "All ships full assault. Do not let them recover." The Allied fleet swept forward, human battleships leading the charge. The Krillians, deprived of their central intelligence, fought as individual creatures rather than a coordinated force. Against the combined might of the Allied fleet, they stood no chance. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, the space around Centauri was filled with the debris of destroyed ships, but most of it was Krillian. "Admiral," Captain Deho reported, "final count shows 63 Krillian vessels destroyed. 4 managed to escape into hyperspace. And our losses? 12 Allied ships destroyed, 37 damaged, but all 4 human battleships are still operational." Admiral Park nodded. It had been a costly victory, but a victory nonetheless. More importantly, it had proven something that many in the galaxy had doubted. "Admiral," the communications officer announced, "incoming message from High Commander Vextal, the Altari." Commander appeared on screen, his expression very different from what it had been before the battle. "Admiral Park," he said formally, "I must admit that I was wrong about human capabilities. Your ships fought with a courage and effectiveness that I have rarely seen. The Altari Empire would be honored to fight alongside such warriors again." Similar messages came from across the Allied fleet. The human battleships had not just won a battle, they had won respect. But Admiral Park knew this was only the beginning. The Krillians would adapt to this defeat as they had to all the others. They would return stronger and more dangerous than before. However, something fundamental had changed. Humanity was no longer the junior partner in the Galactic Alliance. They had proven themselves equals to. The victory at Centauri changed everything. Within days of the battle, delegations from across the galaxy were arriving at Earth to see the shipyards that had produced the impossible. The hidden facility at Tau Ceti was revealed to the galaxy, its massive construction bays now working openly to build the ships that might save civilization. Admiral Song Jae-ho stood in the main observation deck of the newly expanded shipyard, watching as the first joint human-alien vessel took shape. The Unity was unlike anything that had ever been built. A fusion of human durability with Altari engineering precision and Vex computational power. "Admiral," Dr. Ryu Yunhae approached with a data pad full of reports. As the head of the new technology exchange program, she was responsible for coordinating the sharing of scientific knowledge between species. The preliminary results from the Centauri debris analysis are fascinating. What did we learn? The Krillians are more adaptable than we thought, but they have weaknesses we can exploit. Their bioships require constant genetic material to maintain their systems. Cut them off from that supply, and they begin to degrade rapidly. Song Jae-ho studied the data. How long before degradation becomes critical? For smaller vessels, perhaps 6 months. For the larger hive ships, maybe 2 years. But, Admiral, there is something else. The genetic patterns we found suggest the Krillians are not originally from our galaxy. What do you mean? They are refugees, just like the people they have been consuming. Something drove them from their home galaxy, something powerful enough to force an entire species to flee across the void between galaxies. The implications were staggering. If the Krillians were running from something, what would happen when that something followed them? Have you shared this information with the Council? Not yet. I wanted your approval first. This could cause panic, Song Jae-ho considered. Share it with the senior commanders only for now. We need to focus on the immediate threat before worrying about what might be coming behind it. In the construction bays below, work continued around the clock. Human engineers worked alongside Altari metallurgists to create armor that was both flexible and incredibly strong. Vex computer specialists collaborated with human tacticians to develop new combat algorithms. Scientists from dozens of species shared knowledge that had been jealously guarded for centuries. The change was not without problems. Ancient rivalries between species had to be set aside. Different approaches to engineering sometimes led to heated arguments. Some races were reluctant to share their most advanced technologies, but the success at Centauri had proven something important. Diversity of thought led to better solutions. Each species brought unique perspectives that strengthened the whole. Admiral, Commander Yoon Ji-won approached with her own set of reports. The latest production figures from all participating shipyards. Song Jae-ho reviewed the numbers with satisfaction. The galaxy was finally mobilizing its full industrial capacity. Not just the traditional powers, but smaller races that had been excluded from military production for generations. The hegemony shipyards are exceeding expectations, Yoon noted. Their micro-manufacturing techniques are allowing us to build sensor arrays that are 30% more sensitive than anything we had before. And the free worlds? Their mining operations are providing materials we never knew existed. Some of these exotic elements are allowing us to build weapons that operate on entirely new principles. It was exactly what humanity had hoped for when they first broke the treaty restrictions. By forcing the galaxy to rethink its approach to military cooperation, they had unleashed the innovative potential of dozens of species. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Lee Dae-ho was experiencing this cooperation firsthand. His ship had been fitted with new systems developed through the Technology Exchange Program. Altari energy management systems made his weapons more efficient. Vex targeting computers improved his accuracy. Sensor arrays built with hegemony techniques could detect threats at unprecedented ranges. Captain, Lieutenant Kang So-young called from her enhanced tactical station. We are receiving a priority message from Admiral Song. The Krillians have been detected massing near the Vega system. Dae-ho studied the tactical report. This force was larger than anything they had faced before. More than 200 vessels, including multiple hive ships. They learned from Centauri, he observed. This time they are not taking any chances. The call went out across the galaxy. Every available warship was ordered to rendezvous at a staging area 2 systems away from Vega. When the fleet assembled, it was the largest military force in recorded history. 47 human battleships built in the months since Centauri. Hundreds of Altari cruisers and destroyers, Vex fleet units with their perfect formations and devastating firepower. Ships from dozens of other species, each contributing their unique capabilities. But it was not just the size of the fleet that was impressive. It was how it operated. Instead of fighting as separate national forces, the ships worked together as a single unified force. Human tactics were combined with Altari courage and Vex precision to create something entirely new. Admiral Song Jae-ho commanded the fleet from the Unity, the first of the new joint-design battleships. The ship was a testament to what could be achieved when different approaches were combined instead of competing against each other. "All ships," he broadcast as they prepared to jump to Vega, "today we fight not as separate species, but as one people. The Krillians threaten everything we have built together. We will show them that the galaxy stands united." The battle at Vega was the largest space engagement in galactic history. The Krillians had indeed learned from their defeat at Centauri. They fought with new tactics, using their bioship's ability to regenerate to absorb punishment while wearing down the Allied fleet. But the Allied forces had learned as well. Instead of trying to destroy the Krillian ships outright, they focused on disrupting their regeneration abilities. Specialized weapons developed through the Technology Exchange Program delivered targeted strikes that prevented the bioships from healing themselves. The human battleships proved their worth once again, serving as mobile fortresses that could take incredible punishment while continuing to fight. But they were no longer alone. Ships from across the galaxy fought with the same determination, using tactics adapted from human examples. The tide of battle turned when a combined force of human and Altari ships managed to destroy the central hive ship that was coordinating the Krillian fleet. Without central direction, the bioships began to fight as individuals rather than as a coordinated force. "All ships, advance," Admiral Song commanded. "Drive them back into the void where they came from." The route that followed was complete. The surviving Krillian ships fled toward the galactic rim, their invasion force shattered. For the first time since they had appeared, the aliens were in full retreat. In the aftermath of victory, as the Allied fleet regrouped and counted their losses, something remarkable happened. Representatives from species that had fought as enemies for centuries worked together to rescue survivors from damaged ships. Technology was shared freely to repair battle damage. Ancient grievances were set aside in favor of cooperation. "Admiral," Dr. Ryu Yunhai reported as the fleet prepared to return home, "I am receiving requests from 37 species to join the expanded technology exchange program. They want to contribute their knowledge to the common defense." Song. Jae-ho smiled. This was exactly what Admiral Park had envisioned when he first conceived Project Defiance. Not just human ships that could fight the galaxy's enemies, but a fundamental change in how the galaxy approached its problems. "Approve all the requests," he said. "The more perspectives we have, the stronger we become." The journey back to human space was triumphant, but Song Jae-ho could not shake Dr. Ryu's earlier revelation. The Krillians were refugees from something even worse. Sooner or later, that something would come looking for them. When that day came, the galaxy would need to be ready. But for the first time in the history of galactic civilization, all the races were working together instead of competing against each other. The age of human weakness was over. But more than that, the age of any single species dominating the galaxy was over as well. The future belonged to cooperation, to the sharing of knowledge and strength across all the peoples of the stars. It was a future that humanity had fought to create, but it was a future that belonged to everyone. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all. The Krillians had been defeated, but in fighting them, the galaxy had discovered something far more valuable than military victory. They had discovered that their differences were not weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths to be celebrated. The real test would come when they faced whatever had driven the Krillians from their home. But that was a challenge for another day. For now, the galaxy could celebrate the fact that they had learned to stand together against the darkness. And at the center of it all, the human battleship served as a reminder that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem was to refuse to accept that it was impossible in the first place. 2 years had passed since the final defeat of the Krillian invasion. The galaxy had changed in ways that few could have imagined when the first human battleship revealed itself at Rigel, where once there had been rigid hierarchies and ancient treaties that divided species into the powerful and the protected. Now there was something new, true cooperation. Fleet Admiral Park Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Defense Force headquarters, watching as ships from dozens of worlds moved through the busy space lanes around Earth. Altari cruisers flew in formation with human battleships. Vex computational vessels shared data streams with ships from the smallest member species. It was a sight that would have been impossible just a few years ago. "Admiral?" Director Kim Suji approached with her usual tablet full of reports. Once a civilian engineer trying to build better engines, she now headed the Interspecies Shipyard Consortium, overseeing the construction of vessels that combined the best technologies from across the galaxy. The final systems checks on the Unity are complete. She is ready for the launch ceremony. Through the massive windows, they could see the ship that represented everything the galaxy had learned about cooperation. The Unity was larger than any vessel ever built, but she was not a weapon of war. She was an explorer, designed to carry representatives from every member species on humanity's greatest journey yet, beyond the rim of the galaxy itself. "Any word from the deep space monitoring stations?" Park asked. "Nothing new. The quantum resonance detectors still show disturbances in the void between galaxies. But whatever drove the Krillians here has not followed them yet." "Yet," Park repeated. That single word carried the weight of the galaxy's greatest fear. The Krillians had been refugees, driven from their home by something so terrible that they chose to consume entire civilizations rather than face it again. Dr. Ryu Yunhai's analysis of Krillian remains had revealed fragments of genetic memory, glimpses of horrors that had destroyed not just worlds, but entire star systems. The launch ceremony for the Unity was held in the same chamber where the Galactic Council had once debated humanity's treaty violations. But now the chamber was filled with a very different energy. Representatives from 93 species had come to witness the unveiling of their greatest collaborative achievement. Councillor Nam Ariam, now serving as the elected speaker of the Council, addressed the assembled delegates. "2 years ago, we stood divided by ancient treaties and older fears. We believed that our differences made us weak, that cooperation required one species to dominate others. We were wrong." The holographic displays around the chamber showed images from across the galaxy. Shipyards where human engineers worked alongside, Altari metallurgists, research stations where Vex computers processed data gathered by hegemony sensors, defense platforms protecting trade routes that carried goods from worlds that had never trusted each other before. The Krillian invasion taught us that our greatest strength lies not in any single species' achievements, but in what we can accomplish when we combine our different ways of thinking. Nam Ariam continued. Today, we launched not just a ship, but a new chapter in galactic history. The Unity herself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Her hull used Altari crystalline technology to create armor that was both incredibly strong and surprisingly lightweight. Human kinetic weapons were integrated with Vex energy systems to create defensive capabilities that could protect an entire fleet. Her engines, based on Suji's revolutionary Cascade fusion design, could propel the massive vessel at speeds that approached the theoretical limits of physics. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Unity was her crew. Unlike any ship, before her, she was commanded not by a single captain, but by a council of officers from different species. Captain Li Deho represented humanity, but he shared command authority with Altari High Commander Vextal, Vex Computational Director Prime 7, and 12 other senior officers from across the galactic community. It should not work, observed Dr. Choi Minho as he watched the mixed crew prepare for launch. Too many commanders, too many different approaches to problem solving. Military theory says it will lead to chaos. Military theory also said humans could not build battleships, replied Commander Yoon Ji-won with a smile. Sometimes the best solutions are the ones that should not work. As the Unity prepared to depart, messages of support came from across the galaxy. The crew that would take her beyond the rim included not just military personnel, but scientists, diplomats, engineers, and artists. They carried with them samples of music from 100 worlds, literature translated into every known language, and mathematical proofs that represented the highest achievements of galactic civilization. If we encounter whatever drove the Krillians, here, Captain Deho explained to the assembled crew, we want them to understand that we are not just another species to be conquered or consumed. We are something new. A civilization built on cooperation rather than domination. The departure of the Unity was broadcast across the galaxy. On Earth, humans gathered in public squares to watch their species' greatest achievement leave the solar system. On the Altari homeworld, citizens who had once scorned humans as primitive youngsters now cheered for the ship that carried their own people alongside former enemies. As the massive vessel activated her revolutionary engines and disappeared into hyperspace, she left behind a galaxy that was fundamentally different from the one humanity had joined 50 years earlier. The changes were visible everywhere. The old Earth Defense Force had evolved into the Galactic Defense Force, with human officers serving alongside aliens who had once considered them inferior. The Tau Ceti shipyard, once hidden in an asteroid, had become the largest construction facility in known space, building ships that incorporated innovations from every member species. Perhaps most importantly, the galaxy had learned to value different approaches to problems. The rigid hierarchies that had once divided species into the strong and the weak had given way to a more flexible system that recognized that every race had something unique to contribute. Admiral, Kim Suji said as they watched the Unity disappear into the void, the construction schedules for the next-generation defense platforms are ready for your review. Park took the tablet and smiled at what he saw. The new platforms would be built not in human space or Altari space or Vex space, but in joint facilities scattered throughout the galaxy. Each one would use the best technologies from every contributing species, creating defenses that were stronger than anything any single race could have built alone. Approved, he said. but add one more requirement to the specifications. What is that, sir? Each platform must include facilities for cultural exchange, research labs, yes, but also art studios and music halls and libraries. If we are going to defend this galaxy, we need to remember what we are defending. 3 months later, long-range communications received the first message from the Unity. They had reached the edge of the galaxy and were preparing to enter the void between star systems. But more importantly, they had made contact. The message was brief but electrifying. We have found them, the refugees who fled before the Krillians. They are not what we expected. They are like us, a coalition of species working together for survival, beginning cultural exchange protocols. We'll report again in 6 months. The revelation changed everything once again. The terrible enemy that had driven the Krillians from their home was not a single overwhelming force, but something even more frightening: the collapse of cooperation itself. The Krillians had been part of a galactic civilization much like their own, but when faced with a crisis that required unity, they had chosen conquest over cooperation. They became the very thing they were trying to fight, Dr. Ryu Yun-hai observed, as she analyzed the data. A parasitic force that consumed other civilizations instead of working with them. The news prompted a new wave of cooperation across the galaxy. If the lesson of the Krillian War was that diversity made them stronger, then the solution to any future crisis was more diversity, more cooperation, more willingness to try approaches that conventional wisdom said could not work. 5 years after the first human battleship had defied the Galactic Accord, Admiral Park stood once again on the observation deck at Earth Defense Force Headquarters. But now it was called Galactic Defense Force Headquarters, and the uniforms around him represented dozens of species working together as equals. The latest reports from the Unity were encouraging. Contact with the refugee civilizations had led to an exchange of knowledge that benefited everyone. New technologies, new art forms, new ways of thinking about problems that had seemed impossible to solve. Admiral, a young officer approached. Lieutenant Kang So-young, now a full commander and head of tactical development, carried news from the frontier regions. The latest deep space patrols report that the quantum disturbances beyond the rim are diminishing, she said. Whatever crisis drove the refugee civilizations from their home, it appears to be resolving. Park nodded. It was good news, but it also meant that the galaxy would soon face a new challenge: what to do when the external threats that had forced them to cooperate were no longer present. Commander, he said, I want you to begin planning for our greatest challenge yet. What is that, sir? Figuring out how to